Look into the mirror, stare deep into your own eyes. Now, ask yourself, who are you, really? Is the person staring back at you the real you, or just a version sculpted by expectations, fears, and past failures? Have you ever felt like you're merely playing a role in your own life, following a script written by someone else? Here's a truth that will shake you to your core. You don't see yourself as you truly are. You see yourself through a distorted lens, one shaped by society, self-doubt, and the stories you've been told about who you should be. Maybe you were once told you weren't good enough. Maybe you've carried that belief for years, allowing it to define you. But what if, just for a moment, you could strip away those layers? What if everything you believed about yourself was wrong? This is not just another motivational talk. This is a wake-up call. The way you see yourself is the foundation of your entire life. And right now, in this very moment, you have a choice. Continue seeing yourself through the same cracked mirror, or break free and reshape your identity. Are you ready? Grab a pen, because today we're tearing down the illusions and rebuilding the way you see yourself. Forever. 1. You have never failed. You just haven't seen it from the right perspective. You may think you know yourself, but what if everything you believed about your own abilities was an illusion? What if the limits you see are not real, but merely constructs of your mind, built from fear, past experiences, and the voices of others? You've spent years defining yourself in certain ways, but have you ever stopped to question whether those definitions are even true? Imagine yourself standing at the base of a towering mountain. The peak is hidden behind thick clouds, and as you look up, doubts creep in. You remember every time you've stumbled, every time you've fallen short, every time someone told you that you weren't capable. The weight of past failures feels like a heavy pack on your shoulders, making each step seem impossible. But here's what no one ever told you. The mountain isn't as tall as you think. The obstacles you fear are not what will stop you. What will stop you is the belief that you can't climb at all. Have you ever looked at your own life and thought, I am not good enough? Have you ever walked away from a dream, convinced that failure was inevitable? Perhaps you've felt the crushing weight of disappointment, believing that no matter how hard you try, you just don't have what it takes. If that thought has ever crossed your mind, then listen closely, because today you're about to see failure in a way you never have before. What if I told you that you have never truly failed? What if every single setback, every mistake, every painful moment of defeat was never meant to break you, but to build you? What if failure was not the enemy, but the greatest teacher you've ever had? You see, failure does not exist in the way most people think. It is not a dead-end road, nor is it a sign that you should give up. It is a process, a necessary transformation, a test that separates those who succeed from those who never try again. Consider Thomas Edison. History remembers him as the genius who gave the world the light bulb, but before that, he was just another man struggling against failure. Over 1,000 times, he tried and failed to create a functioning light bulb. Can you imagine how most people would have reacted after 10 failed attempts, 50, 100? Yet after failing 1,000 times, he didn't see himself as defeated. Instead, he famously declared, "I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work." And that, right there, is the difference between those who succeed and those who surrender too soon. The philosophy of Stoicism teaches us that failure is a construct of the mind. In Discourses, Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." It is never the failure itself that destroys people. It is their perception of failure. When you believe that failure defines you, you allow it to become a prison, locking you away from your true potential. But when you see failure as nothing more than feedback, as a lesson pointing you in the right direction, then failure ceases to exist. There are only two outcomes. You either win or you learn. Now take a moment to reflect on your own life. Think of a time when you told yourself, "I have failed." Maybe it was a business idea that didn't take off, a relationship that ended in heartbreak, or an opportunity you let slip through your fingers. What did you tell yourself in that moment? That you weren't smart enough, not talented enough, not lucky enough? But let me ask you this. If you had seen that experience as a stepping stone instead of an obstacle, where would you be today? If you had understood that failure is just progress in disguise, how different would your journey have been? The truth is, the most successful people in history were never the ones who avoided failure. They were the ones who failed the most and refused to let it stop them. Michael Jordan, often regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine if he had let that define him. Imagine if he had decided that basketball simply wasn't meant for him. But instead, he used that moment as fuel. He trained harder, pushed himself beyond his limits, and rewrote his own story. The same goes for J.K. Rowling, whose manuscript for Harry Potter was rejected by 12 publishers before becoming one of the best-selling book series in history. She didn't stop because people told her no. She understood a fundamental truth. Every no simply brought her closer to the right yes. This is where the shift happens. Failure is never personal, it is progress in disguise. If you keep moving forward, failure is never final. The only way to truly fail is to stop trying. And now, it's your turn. Grab a pen and write down 3 times in your life where you believed you failed. Be honest. What dreams did you give up on? What challenges made you walk away? Now, for each of those failures, I want you to write down the lesson it taught you. Maybe it showed you resilience. Maybe it taught you what not to do. Maybe it forced you to grow in a way you wouldn't have otherwise. But I guarantee you this. If you look deep enough, every failure has left behind a lesson, and that lesson is the key to your success. At this very moment, you have 2 choices. You can continue to see failure as an enemy, allowing it to define and limit you. Or you can shift your perspective, realizing that failure was never against you. It was preparing you. It was making you stronger, wiser, and ready for what's next. So I ask you, next time you stand before a challenge, will you let fear hold you back? Or will you embrace every setback as a lesson, knowing that every failure is simply another step toward victory? The choice is yours. 2. Your past does not define you. You define yourself. If failure is nothing more than a lesson, then why do so many people stay trapped in their past mistakes, allowing them to shape who they are? The answer is simple, because we are taught to believe that our past is an unchangeable force that dictates our future. From an early age, we absorb the idea that our past experiences, decisions and failures become permanent labels, etched into our identity, impossible to erase. But what if that belief is completely false? What if the past holds no power over you unless you allow it to? Think about it. Right now, the past does not exist. The things that once happened, the heartbreaks, the missed opportunities, the failures, are not happening anymore. They are mere echoes of what was, stored in your mind and replayed as if they still have control over you. But they don't. The only thing that truly exists is this moment. and the power you have to decide who you are right now. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in a prison cell, 27 years confined to a space no larger than a small room. For nearly 3 decades, he was stripped of his freedom, cut off from the world, and treated as if his life no longer had value. For many, that would have been the end. It would have been easy, expected even, for him to emerge from prison full of resentment, anger, and bitterness. But instead, he chose something entirely different. He once said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." Mandela understood something that most people never realize. The worst kind of prison is not the one made of concrete walls and iron bars. It is the prison we build within our own minds. How many people remain locked inside that kind of prison long after their suffering has ended? How many hold on to past mistakes, regrets, and losses, allowing them to dictate how they see themselves? The truth is, no one else is keeping you trapped. Only you have the key to walk free. But just as some people let their past failures define them, others make an equally dangerous mistake. They let their past successes define them. One of the greatest dangers in life is sleeping on past victories. There is a name for this phenomenon: the curse of success. It happens when someone achieves something great, and instead of pushing forward, they allow that one victory to become their identity. They cling to an achievement like a lifeboat, refusing to move beyond it, fearing that they may never reach that level again. One of the most striking examples of this is Mike Tyson. At just 20 years old, he became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. He was unstoppable, a force of nature. But success became his downfall. Instead of continuing to sharpen his discipline, instead of evolving and growing, he became complacent. He surrounded himself with people who fueled his ego rather than challenged him to improve. The hunger that had driven him to greatness began to fade, and he started relying on his past achievements instead of focusing on future ones. Eventually, he lost everything: the title, the money, the respect. Seneca once wrote in Letters to Lucilius, "A great fortune is a great slavery. The moment you let your past victories become your identity, you become a prisoner of them. You stop growing, you stop pushing forward. You allow yourself to exist in the shadow of who you once were, rather than focusing on who you could become." Ask yourself, are you still clinging to an old version of yourself, whether defined by failure or success? Are you still living in the echoes of who you used to be? Your mind is the one thing that remains entirely within your control, even when everything else feels chaotic and uncertain. While you cannot rewrite the events that have already taken place, you have complete authority over the way you interpret and respond to them. The past holds no real power unless you continue to give it meaning that limits you. The moment you recognize this truth, you gain a strength that no external force can take away. The ability to redefine yourself, not based on what has happened, but on who you choose to become. Think about the stories you tell yourself. Maybe you believe you are someone who always messes up, someone who always gets hurt, someone who never gets a break. Maybe you see yourself as a person who isn't meant to be successful, who is destined to struggle, who will never be truly happy. But ask yourself, who taught you to believe that? Were you born with those thoughts, or were they shaped by painful experiences that you've held on to for too long? Consider this. If you met a child who had fallen while trying to walk for the first time, would you tell them to stop trying? Would you say, "Well, you fell once, so walking just isn't for you"? Of course not. So why do you do that to yourself? Just because you made mistakes, failed, or faced hardship in the past does not mean that is who you are. At this very moment, you are standing at a crossroads. You can continue carrying the weight of the past, allowing it to define you. Or you can rewrite the story. Right now, you have the power to redefine what your past means. You can choose to see it as proof of your failures, or you can see it as evidence of your strength. Proof that no matter what has happened, you are still here. Take a deep breath and picture yourself 5 years ago. Think about who you were, the struggles you faced, the things that once seemed impossible. Now, ask yourself, what would you tell that version of you? Would you tell them to keep going? Would you tell them that things would get better? Would you remind them of their strength, of their resilience, of everything they are capable of? Now, flip that perspective. Imagine yourself 5 years from now, looking back at this very moment. What do you want to say to yourself? Do you want to look back and see someone who remained stuck, who let the past hold them hostage? Or do you want to see someone who made the choice to move forward, to redefine themselves, to become more than their history? If you are still breathing, if your heart is still beating, then your story is not over. The past is not a script that has already written your ending. You are the author, you hold the pen, and you get to decide who you become. 3. Turning pain into power. Pain is unavoidable. No one walks through life untouched by hardship, loss, or suffering. At some point, every person faces moments that shake them to their core, moments of betrayal, heartbreak, failure, or grief. Yet, while pain is universal, what differentiates people is how they respond to it. Some let pain consume them, turning it into an excuse to stop trying, to stop believing, to stop living. Others, however, use it as fuel. They take their suffering and forge it into something greater, something stronger, something unbreakable. Think about the moments in your life when pain left a mark on you. Maybe it was an unexpected loss. Maybe it was a personal failure so devastating that you questioned your own worth. Maybe it was a time when someone you trusted hurt you in ways you never imagined. Pain often arrives unannounced, stripping away the illusions of certainty, leaving you vulnerable and lost. But what if, instead of seeing pain as an enemy, you could see it as an opportunity? What if every hardship you've endured was meant to shape you, not destroy you? History is filled with individuals who turned their deepest suffering into their greatest strength. Ludwig van Beethoven is one of them. The world knows him as one of the greatest composers of all time, but few truly understand the depth of his struggle. In his late 20s, Beethoven began to lose his hearing, a cruel fate for a musician. As his condition worsened, his world became silent, cutting him off from the very thing that defined him. Many would have given up, believing that their purpose had been stolen from them. But Beethoven did not. He refused to let his pain dictate his destiny. Instead, he composed some of his most legendary pieces, including the Ninth Symphony, a masterpiece created in complete deafness. The silence that could have ended his career instead became the backdrop against which he proved his genius. Pain does not break you. Your perception of pain does. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The very obstacles you believe are holding you back are the exact things that can propel you forward if you choose to see them differently. This is the essence of Stoicism. Life does not happen to you. It happens for you. Every hardship is an opportunity to sharpen your mind, to strengthen your will, and to build the kind of resilience that nothing can shake. But let's bring this closer to you. Think about your own life. What pain have you been carrying? What wounds have you allowed to define you? Maybe you tell yourself that you can't move forward because of what happened to you. Maybe you've been waiting for time to heal the wounds, believing that one day the pain will disappear on its own. But here's the truth: pain does not simply fade. You have to transform it. You have to take it into your hands and shape it into something powerful. Consider the story of Malala Yousafzai. At just 15 years old, she was shot in the head by the Taliban simply because she dared to seek an education. That single moment could have silenced her forever. The fear, the trauma, the pain. No one would have blamed her if she had chosen to disappear, to never speak out again. But instead, she turned that moment into a revolution. She became one of the strongest advocates for girls' education, winning the Nobel Peace Prize and standing before world leaders, proving that even the deepest wounds can give birth to the greatest strength. The problem is, most people do not see pain as an opportunity. They see it as a burden, something to escape, something to resent. But pain is neither good nor bad. It is neutral. It only takes on meaning when you decide how to use it. You can let it define you in a way that weakens you, or you can let it forge you into something stronger than you ever imagined. Take a moment right now and write down one of the greatest pains you have ever experienced. Don't avoid it. Don't pretend it doesn't affect you. Acknowledge it. Feel it. Now ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to become stronger, wiser, more resilient? If you truly reflect on it, you will find that buried beneath the suffering is a lesson, a new strength that you never knew you had. Pain forces us to confront our deepest fears, to shed the parts of ourselves that no longer serve us. It is in pain that we discover our true character, not in moments of comfort, but in moments when we have to fight to move forward. And the truth is, you have already survived so much more than you realize. If you are still standing, still breathing, still pushing forward, then you have proof that pain has never truly defeated you. So the next time life hands you hardship, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "How can this make me stronger?" Instead of seeing pain as a roadblock, see it as a stepping stone. The difference between those who rise and those who fall is not in what they go through, but in how they choose to respond. The pain that was meant to break you can become the very thing that builds you, if you allow it. Your suffering does not define you. What defines you is what you do with it. 4. On what truly matters. You've learned that pain can be transformed into power. But what happens when your biggest enemy isn't suffering? It's distraction. In a world overflowing with noise, where attention is a currency, how many of us are truly in control of where our time and energy go? Most people don't realize that while they're endlessly scrolling, constantly reacting, and chasing meaningless validations, their greatest asset, time, is slipping through their fingers. Modern life is fast-paced. We wake up to notifications, rush through our morning routines, and spend our days drowning in a sea of tasks, emails, deadlines, and information. Even in moments of rest, we fill the silence with more noise, social media, entertainment, and mindless consumption. It feels like we're constantly moving, but the real question is, are we actually getting anywhere? Or are we just running in circles, mistaking activity for progress? There is a story that illustrates this perfectly. In the 1980s, a young man named David decided to chase his dream of becoming a doctor. He was accepted into a prestigious medical school, and for the first few years, he worked harder than anyone else. But then, distractions crept in. At first, they were small, spending extra time at social events, staying up late watching television, convincing himself he could always catch up later. Slowly, his studies took a back seat. One missed deadline turned into two. One failure led to another. Eventually, he dropped out. For years, David told himself that medicine just wasn't for him. He took a corporate job, convincing himself he had made the right decision. But deep down, he knew the truth. He had not failed because he lacked intelligence or ability. He had failed because he let distractions steal his focus. 10 years later, he found himself deeply unfulfilled. Then, one day, he met an old classmate, someone who had stayed the course and was now a highly respected doctor. That conversation changed everything. David realized his biggest regret was not failing, but allowing distractions to keep him from his true path. Determined to rewrite his story, he made a bold choice. He went back to medical school at nearly 40 years old. It was harder this time, but now he understood a truth that most never realize. Success is not about talent or luck. It is about ruthless focus. Today, David is not just a doctor. He is a leading specialist in his field. This is not just David's story. It is the story of countless people who lose themselves in the noise, letting distractions keep them from what truly matters. And in today's world, distractions are more powerful than ever. Companies spend billions perfecting algorithms that hijack your mind, stealing your attention minute by minute. Social media, endless entertainment, news cycles designed to keep you outraged. These are not just small interruptions. They are engineered to keep you addicted, to make you feel productive while keeping you stuck. The philosophy of Stoicism offers a solution. In discourses, Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, you must be willing to ignore what society pressures you to care about. You must stop chasing things that do not align with your purpose. You must prioritize your life with ruthless clarity. Look at your own day. How many hours do you spend on things that truly matter? How much of your energy is wasted on meaningless arguments, pointless entertainment, or worrying about things you can't control? The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't intelligence, it's focus. Those who achieve extraordinary things protect their time like their life depends on it, because they understand that it does. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks. Each rock represents something that drains your time. Mindless scrolling, toxic relationships, unnecessary commitments. Now, imagine dropping those rocks one by one. With each one you release, you feel lighter, freer, more in control. This is what happens when you start focusing on what truly matters. You create space for clarity, energy, and progress. Take a moment right now and write down 3 things that consume too much of your time. Be brutally honest. What are the habits, distractions, or obligations that add no real value to your life? Now, choose at least one and commit to letting it go. This is the difference between existing and truly living. If you want to become the best version of yourself, you must first create the space for that person to exist. You don't get more time, but you do get to decide how you use the time you have. Make sure it's something that actually matters. 5. Conquer yourself. Conquer the world. You have now learned the power of focus, the ability to strip away distractions and commit fully to what truly matters. But focus alone is not enough. The greatest challenge you will ever face is not external distractions, but yourself. You are your own greatest enemy and your greatest ally. No external obstacle, no failure, no rejection, no hardship can truly stop you. The only thing that can is the voice in your head that says, "I can't." The world will always be chaotic. There will always be setbacks, unfair situations, and things beyond your control. But none of that matters if you have mastered yourself. Because once you do, no storm can shake you, no fear can paralyze you, no challenge can break you. And now, it's time to take the final step, the one that separates those who live passively from those who take control of their destiny. It's time to conquer the one thing that has been standing in your way all along: yourself. Most people spend their entire lives trying to manipulate external forces, chasing success, avoiding failure, trying to win the approval of others. But the moment you realize that you cannot control the world and instead turn that energy inward, something extraordinary happens. You stop feeling powerless. You stop reacting impulsively to things beyond your control. You stop being a slave to emotions, distractions, and fears. Instead, you become unshakable. The strongest person in any room is not the one who dominates others, but the one who has mastered himself. David Goggins is the ultimate proof of this truth. Born into an abusive household, bullied in school, and struggling with obesity, he was nowhere close to being the elite warrior the world knows today. At his lowest point, he was overweight, working as an exterminator, and drowning in self-hatred. But one day, he made a choice, not to blame his circumstances, not to wish for things to be different, but to conquer himself. The journey was brutal. He forced himself through grueling physical challenges, failing over and over but never stopping. He attempted Hell Week, the Navy SEALs' toughest selection process, not once, but 3 times before finally succeeding. He went on to become a Navy SEAL, an Army Ranger, an ultra-endurance athlete, and one of the toughest men alive. His transformation wasn't due to luck, genetics, or privilege. It was the result of one simple but powerful truth: when you master your mind, your body, and your life follow. The philosophy of Stoicism has echoed this idea for centuries. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that the only true power you will ever have is over yourself, your thoughts, your choices, your reactions. The moment you embrace this, you become unstoppable. Think about your own life. How many times have you let emotions control you? How often have you avoided challenges because of fear? How many dreams have you put on hold because you told yourself you weren't ready? The truth is, you will never be ready until you decide to be. No external event, no stroke of luck, no motivation video will ever prepare you. Only action will. Mastering yourself means refusing to be ruled by impulses. It means showing up even when you don't feel like it. It means training your mind to embrace discomfort instead of running from it. It means choosing discipline over excuses, consistency over motivation, and resilience over self-pity. Every time you push past resistance, every time you override fear with action, you gain control. Not over the world, but over yourself. But self-mastery is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is a daily battle. The greatest warriors, whether in combat, in business, or in life, wake up every morning knowing that the fight against weakness never ends. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent, luck, or intelligence. It is the relentless commitment to push beyond their limits every single day. And now, it's your turn. For the next 7 days, challenge yourself to take one action that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's waking up early and committing to a morning routine. Maybe it's speaking up in a situation where you usually stay silent. Maybe it's stepping into discomfort, whether it's a tough workout, a difficult conversation, or a new challenge that scares you. Whatever it is, face it head on. Because once you start conquering small fears, you will realize that nothing has ever truly been holding you back except yourself. And when you master yourself, there is nothing in this world that can stop you. You've just taken a journey into the depths of your own mind, questioning the way you see yourself, the way you respond to challenges, and the way you shape your own destiny. But here's the truth. Understanding these ideas is not enough. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control the world, but we can always control ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, our reactions. And when you master yourself, you master everything. The way you see yourself shapes your actions, your choices, and ultimately your life. If you keep seeing yourself through the lens of past failures, fears, and doubts, then nothing will change. But the moment you shift your perspective, the moment you start seeing yourself as someone capable, resilient, and in control, everything transforms. Right now, you have two choices. You can walk away from this video and return to the same habits, the same patterns, the same mindset that has kept you stuck. Or you can take the first step towards something greater. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to decide. So here's my challenge to you. Choose one action, one small but powerful step that you can take today to change the way you see yourself. It could be waking up earlier. It could be pushing yourself in the gym. It could be facing a fear you've been avoiding for years. Whatever it is, commit to it now. And if you're truly ready to take control, drop a comment below and write, "I control myself." If this video resonated with you, like this video to affirm your decision. Share it with someone who needs this message. And subscribe if you're ready for more powerful insights that will push you toward becoming the best version of yourself. The greatest transformation in your life will not come from external events. It will come from the moment you decide to take ownership of your mind. So, will you continue living as you always have? Or will you choose to change today? The decision is yours.